This is the lecture on georeferencing for Introduction to GIS. So today we're going to go through the process of georeferencing, which is the ability of taking an image that does not have geography associated with it and forcing or adding geography to it. So many times in projects that you'll do in your future studies or at your work or for this class, you will add a layer, you will add an image, and it will automatically show up in the correct place in the world. That requires that there is geography associated or attached to the picture, and many pictures are already done that way, but many are not. So what we're going to do is take an image that if you pull it up, when we pull it up, will go to the wrong place in the world because there is no geography, and change that so that it goes to the correct place in the world. That's called georeferencing. So what I'm going to do first is just add the image itself. I've already added states and counties here, and I'm just going to find an image that I have prepared for us. You'll note that it's a JPEG, so it is just any other type of image that you come up with. JPEG is a fairly common format for it. So I just add it as I would any other image. The computer says, this isn't going to go to the right place. Are you sure you want to add it? And I say, that's okay. So note when it shows up in our table of contents, it looks a little different. It identifies that it is a picture and it is not a feature class. If I right-click and zoom to layer, we can see the image itself. You can see I just took it from Google Earth, just captured that image from Google Earth. If we move around a little bit, we'll find our United States, although sometimes you won't even be able to see your regular feature classes. You won't know where they all are at all because they will be too small. So the process requires that we have our georeferencing toolbar. So we'll just go and get it from Customize and Toolbars and down here to Georeferencing, wherever that is here, and pull up the toolbar itself, which we will move to the side a little bit, although we will use it regularly. If you have more than one image, you'll need to make sure that the one you are currently working on is prompted here. Now our first step is to what's referred to as Fit to Display. So on the georeferencing pull down, I just select Fit to Display. And all this does is it brings the two things closer together. Again, sometimes you won't be able to see both of them in the same image, and Fit to Display will change that so you at least know where they are. Now the process is fairly simple. In essence, what we are doing is taking the geography that is already existing in the state's feature class and the county's feature class and copying it onto our image. So the concept is we find a location on our image, we connect it to the correct geography on our map, and then it copies that latitude and longitude coordinate onto the image, which can then be saved. So we do this by adding what are referred to as control points. A control point is basically a line that connects the two geographically together. So what we need to do is find a location on the picture that we can very clearly find exactly as we can again on the map. So since this is a picture of counties, I have added counties to my map. If I zoom into California here to get a little closer, we will be able to see, I happen to know that this is Marin County, so we will be able to see what this shape looks like. They're not exact, but we'll get as close as we can. So the first image that I'm going to look for is where this county line in essence meets the ocean, because that will be a fairly clearly identifiable place that I will be able to find more than once. So here on the picture, here is the county line, and I can find where it hits the ocean. Now I'm going to zoom in a little tighter here just to get it as neatly as I can. You'll notice the picture gets pixelated, but that's okay, it doesn't matter. So I change the function of my cursor to the control points here, and you'll see that my cursor looks a little different. And as best I can, click where that county line hits the ocean. You'll see I get a little number 1. Now at this point I need to find that exact spot on my map. So I zoom out to the point that I can find my map again, and then I go into California, into where Marin County is, and once I get close enough to where I can find that exact location again, I change my cursor again back to the control point. You can see I'm connected, and I get as best I can and click again. Now if I zoom out, you'll see that everything has shifted. The image has shifted over to make that connection between those 2 points. They still don't match because I've only done one. Generally, you want to make between 3 to 6 control points, although 6 would be a lot. If you can do 4 or 5, that's really about as good as you should go. If you do too many, it gets tweaked, and I'll show you how to fix that if it happens. So now I need to find another place to put a control point. This is also a fairly identifiable location where the water comes in. The county line connects here to where the water comes in. So again, I change the function of my cursor to the control point and make a click, and then I zoom back out so that I can find my United States again. I click back to where the county line is as best I can, change back to the control points and identify that location. Now when I zoom back out again, you can see that it's much better, right? It's much, much closer. Now this is a point where you might need to begin to manipulate what order things are in your table of contents. For example, if I bring my image up, I can now see the image more clearly. If I bring it down, I can then see the county and states more clearly. You might want to make one of your feature classes hollow so that you can see through it. Now, as it happens, this particular county is the same as the state line on the ocean side because, of course, the state ends. So I'm just going to go ahead and undraw counties, although you could do it the other way around. We can see that we're a little bit tweaked down here. The image and the county or state line don't quite match up. So let's go ahead and try to fix that. Your best way to do control points is to try to get the perimeter. If you can get as close to 4 corners as you can, that works best. You want to avoid putting control points in the center because it doesn't really help it identify where the edges are. So this space right here looks like it will be easily found again. I could connect these 2 places, or I could connect these 2 places. This is a little more curved and this is a little more clear, so I'm going to do those. So I'll add a control point. Remember, you always put your first control point on the picture and then you add it to your map, and when I do that, it clears that up quite a bit. I'll zoom back out again a little bit to see how I'm doing. It's looking pretty good here, even with 3. I might be able to tighten this up a little bit. I might be able to tighten this up a little bit. So let's go ahead and see what happens if I zoom in here and then I try to make the connection between, let's move this up just to make sure I hit the right one. This point right here, and then I need to move it back down again, and this point right here. So that looks better. Let's see here. So you can mess around with this. It's not going to be perfect because the state line is much more crude than the image is. I might put one more here just to tighten that up a little bit. We'll put this point connected to that point. Whoops. Now, you'll notice that when I did that, not only did it not help, but it actually tweaked it a little bit. It actually seemed to make it less accurate. If you get in there, or if you found you've put too many, or one makes it worse, what we do then is we go into the View Link Table. Again, I'm on the Georeferencing toolbar. We've been using this Add Control Points. Further along, we have the View Link Table. If I open that up, I can get access to all of the links that I have just added. And in fact, if I select one, For example, the first one I put is here. If I select it, you'll see it turns yellow or it highlights on there, so I know which one I'm dealing with. If I find I've added one and I don't like it, I can select it and hit delete, and it goes away. Now, the other thing that this is useful for is maybe you have, here I'm just guessing, right? I am eyeballing the latitude and longitude, but it's possible that you might actually have a set of latitude and longitude coordinates written down or collected from a GPS in some way. So what you can do is go in here and eyeball it as close as you can, but then you can go in actually to the list itself and type in the exact latitude and longitude coordinate, and then you can get extremely accurate, right? You can make it as accurate as you like. So once you've made whatever corrections and identified as many control points as you want, then you want to save it. There are a couple of ways to save it. If you update the georeferencing, it will add the geography to this exact image. If you don't want to mess with the images, you can do what's called rectify. If you select rectify, you will be able to navigate to a safe place by just selecting the browse button. And of course, it prefers being in a personal geodatabase. And then give your new file a name. So maybe you would call this Marin County Georeferenced or some abbreviation of that. That's probably too long. And then save it. Either way, you can just go in and make your choice there, and then whenever you pull up that image again, it will automatically, go to the correct place in the world. So georeferencing, very useful. Very common, especially if you're using a lot of satellite imagery that you want to use for a backdrop of your project. So that is the end of this lecture.